An area of science fiction modelling that I've really overlooked for quite a long time is the Jerry Anderson shows. In fact, my pre-paints and models just amount to that shelf there and a bit there. All right, that's all I've got at the moment, and I need to remedy that. So I'm going to, and the first step is to rebuy a model that I've had before, which is the SPV from Captain Scarlet, the Imai re-release from the mid-90s. And I had this before, and in the end I threw it away. Why I threw it away and the cock-ups that made me throw it away, I will detail when we open that up and start building, okay? So yeah, I was pleased to get this off of eBay. They usually go for about 40, 50 pounds, and there was one that was going for about 12, starting bid of about 12, and I got it for 15 pounds, which I was very pleased about. I mean, the guy said the box was beat up. I don't care about the box, it's what's inside. And he said that everything's sealed in bags inside, and he is correct. But a couple of problems. One is there is no instruction sheet, and I can't remember him saying that in his description. But normally it'd be like I'd be a bit miffed and would want my money back. But you know, the internet is a wonderful research tool, and a couple of minutes of searching for Imai SPV instructions PDF got me these pieces of paper. They're like photocopied, but it should be easy enough to do. An awful lot of this model, by the way, is you have gearing put in case you want to motorize it, and there's a battery compartment and there's a thing for steering it. I'm going to ignore all that. All these bits here are going to go, oh, sorry about that. All of these very blurry bits. Come on, focus. Come on. There we go. Sorry about that. Yeah, all the extra bits for the steering of it, they're going to go in my bits box, as are the rockets, because this was a rocket launching one. All right, so that's one thing, but that's remedied. Another problem I've got, and this might be why it was cheap to begin with, is this is an old kit. This is from about 93, so it's pretty old now. And by the way, look, there's all the gearing for the if you want to motorize it. No, it's quite an old kit, and look, the decals have yellowed. I first noticed it on the Spectrum logo. It's darker than it should be, but look, the supposedly white SPV markings are quite yellow. I'm hoping that that's just the case. It's the backing paper that's yellowed, and once they're off and on the on the SPV, they'll be white. But just in case they're not, my friend Alan has got a scanner that can print out decal paper. So what I'm going to do is, before I even attempt to use these, scan them first, high definition scan, and send them off to Alan. He's kindly said, yeah, he'll be happy to do that. So that's a backup in case these don't work. All right. So that's the initial thoughts getting out of the box. Still no word of the cock-ups yet, but that'll be in the next part. Back when I first made this kit in the mid-90s, that was the pre-internet days, and I think my reference material amounted to my back issues of SIG magazine and one Captain Scarlet annual. So I didn't have much in the way of reference material or knowledge of whether this was a good model or not. I remember really liking it because I had a decent sized SPV, but now making it again all these years later with the internet and a bit more experience, it's like, oof. One of the oof is the this double wheel affair that the SPV has. You've got a rubber tyre for the outside, and you just got a disc on the inside, which is pretty naff. So that's that. As you can see, I've made a start. I'm in the process of putting the wheels on. By the way, I've got a vague memory of that being a nightmare, putting the Caterpillar wheels on the back being a nightmare, but I've got that to come. What I've done here is I've actually primed and painted the blue wheels in metallics before applying the rubber wheels, rubber tyres over the top. I don't think I would have done that back in, 94, 95. Regarding cock-ups, as I say, look, it's a decent size, isn't it? I only know now that it's quite inaccurate, both in shape and the front bumper, but it's a decent size, isn't it? One of the cock-ups I did back in the 90s was I decided to cut the window out there and back it with some clear plastic, but I never... It's quite thick plastic, and I never chamfered it down on the other side, so it all looked a bit blocky and terrible. I'm not going to do that this time. I now know that this is quite an inaccurate model, so why go to the trouble of accurizing something that you're not really going to notice? I'm going to paint them black and maybe put a piece of clear plastic over the top to infer a window. What I did before... This is where the rockets fired out, because it's one of these models it's a model, but it also had functioning toy-like things and it could fire rockets out. I don't think so. I mean, that's the door. Where does a rocket go if that was true? So what I'd done before was what I've done here, which is get some plasticard and score it. I didn't do a very good job last time, so I made sure I did a better job. One thing I don't think I accurized last time, and I certainly am going to this time, is this slot at the top is for the fin that goes on the top, and it's actually the trigger. You press that down and the rockets fire, all right? And here it is, and as you can see, it's quite big, and if you attach that to the bit that goes on the underside, all right, it sticks up far too far. Can I get it? It sort of will be like that if I leave it as is, which is terrible. So I've got to cut it so basically, where that angle changes is basically there. So I've got to cut that down before attaching it to the thing that attaches in there. And then the last thing that I cocked up for this time is the front bumper. As I say, it's inaccurate. But I remember back in the 90s, what I did was I sprayed it all the blue it's supposed to be, and then I hand painted, Citadel white over the top, which meant a lot of the black ribbon detail went. And then I hand painted the ribbon in black and made a right pig's ear of it. I remember that, and I remember thinking, ouch, back then, this isn't right. So, what I did was I splattered it with mud to cover up the worst of the problems. I might have that problem again this time, but what I've done this time, as you can see, the top air intake and the bumper I have sprayed white, not hand painted. And coming today from Amazon will be some ultra fine artist's pens. So, out of focus again. Hang on. Some artist pens, all right, to pick out the black. And that's pretty much it for the cock-ups. I've got one more cock-up that I did on my previous build, but we'll get to that when I reach it. So here we have the undercarriage done. Undercarriage, well, you know what I mean. Bit of a puzzle is on these instructions that I found, the far rear set of wheels just have an axle when you connect it all, but the kit has this affair which is part of the motorized thing, so that was a bit of a puzzle to work out what was going on, but got there in the end. Yeah, it came flooding back to me. The problem I had when I had this SPV before is the Caterpillar tracks at the back. And that is that you have the bottom wheels and then the top wheels go on their axle on the top and connected by the, well, effectively rubber bands for the caterpillar tracks, and these are on pulled up quite a bit of tension on them, right? And what you do to stop this bottom axle coming up is you glue in these two little, you see those blue plugs, you glue them in. And I think when I did it before, I hadn't glued them properly, and over time, because these rubber bands are under tension, the join gave way, and yeah, I think that went wrong before. So to try and get around that this time, what I've done is I've put a ton of glue when I glued them in, and then glue over it. And then what I've also done, hopefully this isn't going to show, is I've also put a strip of plastic card today and glued over. That's been set for a day. This should be set now, so I've got to get that done. Then I've got to repaint or paint the back. These are the little exhausts, which are a bit silly. Paint that to match the rest of the metals. So that's that. And then it's a bit of a shame. It's kind of established that the right colour for an SPV is Ford Zircon Blue. And I remember a few years ago that was still available because I used it for something else. I think it was one of the guest craft that Martin Bauer built for Space 1999. He used Zircon Blue, and I know it was around then, but I went to my local Halfords yesterday, no sign of it. I don't think they do it anymore. So I've gone with this. I'm using artificial light today because there's a storm outside, and it's pretty horrible out there. No, it's actually a lighter blue than what this artificial light is making it out to be. It's quite a bit lighter than that, and it is Vauxhall Breeze Blue. That's more the shade. It's like that. All right, trust me, that looks more like that. Okay, and it is a metallic blue, as you can see, but I'm going to be putting a coat of matte varnish on this, which will hopefully tone it all down. But I can't do that until I've put the red striping on. And another cock-up I did when I did this before was I hand painted the red panels that go everywhere, right? And yeah, I really cocked it up, especially the curve up and around and down. Okay, what I'm going to do this time, in the intervening years, I've figured out, panel lines, go faster stripes, and I'm hoping it'll be all right for like that rectangle there, but I'm hoping I'll be able to, if I use a small enough one, I'll be able to coax it and bend it to go around. If not, I'm going to have to cut out some masking tape or something and paint it red and do that. So I'll come back once that is done. Well, the hope of doing this build without any cock-ups isn't really panning out. I've avoided some of the cock-ups that I did when I first made it, but now I've got a new cock-up, and that is the decals are no longer yellow, which is great. Thank you to the guy on the SFM UK forum on Facebook for suggesting I put them in the bag and leave them in direct sunlight for a few days. As you can see, it has they've whitened back up and lost that yellowness. Brilliant. Problem is, and I don't know whether it was an age thing, I don't know if it's leaving them in direct sunlight, but what's happened is they are incredibly delicate and incredibly fragile. And look, this is what's happened to the roundels. After soaking them in warm water, went to slide them off the decal sheet, and that's what happens. They just started ripping apart. They were properly detached from the backing sheet. It's not like I was trying to push them before they were ready. They just crumbled. So we're going back to plan number one. Luckily, I did scan the decals before attempting to use them. So I've sent them off to my friend Alan to print out on decal paper. So I've got to wait for that. In the meantime, I'm going to busy myself the undercarriage, the wheels are all done. I'm going to dirty this down, all right, and I did it before to cover up some things that I didn't get right. This time it's yeah, just to make it more realistic. Of course, this is far too shiny, needs a coat of varnish, but also this bumper affair, even though I've used the fine line pen and I've gone over the lines are far too thick and clunky for an accurate representation. So yeah, he's going to be a dusty. This is going to be a dusty SPV. Well, thanks to the top blokeness of my friend Alan, he's come through in spades with the replacement decals. I scanned him the sheet before I had my aborted attempt at applying them, and they all crumbled. So here we go, they're all done. Had to very carefully cut them out because the backing wasn't clear, it was white. So that's it means you know, brand new scalpel blade and go very, very slowly. Of course, I'm not very good at cutting on a curve, so there's a little bit that you can still see there and there. But after the next stage, which is once these are dry, of course, putting on a coat of matte varnish to take away the shininess of this. Ooh, wasn't expecting it to do that. Yeah, the step after that will be the weathering down, so I'll be smattering some dirt over that. All right, so on to the next stage, SIG. And here she is all done. Again, I'm indebted to Alan for providing the replacement decals, which was a massive relief. I really thought this was going to be one I'd have to bin. So there we go, all done. Still not quite sure of the blue, even though I've, you know, taken the shininess right down with matte varnish. It's not 100% accurate to the blue in the show, but you know, like with all metallic colors, it changes according to the light levels. So sometimes it can look quite light, sometimes it can look quite dark. But no, I'm pleased with it. It's a lot better than the first one I did. So there we go, all done. What Jerry Anderson should I do next?